Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. Today's Thursday, November 14th. I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and we got the best recruiting insider in the country, Steve Wiltfong. He's on this show, and we're going to hit on the biggest developments of the week, and there were many. Normally, we're talking about what's going to happen going into the weekend. Well, guess what? There's a lot that's gone down this week. We're going to hit on what's going on in this week and also previewing some big visit weekends. So sit back for the next 20, 30 minutes and get caught up on all things recruiting. All right, let's bring in Steve Wiltfong. We're going to start with the Miami Hurricanes. They got it flipping on Wednesday night. USC commit Hayden Lowe flipped his commitment from the Trojans to the Canes. He's an edge prospect, 6'5", 250 pounds from LA. How was Miami able to pull this Trojan out of their backyard, flip him to the Canes?
Persistence, consistency, play on the field, and defensive line coaches that prospects love. You're talking about Jason Taylor, Joe Salavea. Those are guys that do a phenomenal job building meaningful relationships with prospects, and they have the pedigree that excites players of this caliber. But there was times where it looked like it was dead in the water. He was going to stick with USC. There were times where it looked like Oregon had some momentum. Then he ends up sticking with USC. But Miami hung in there, continued to push, and did enough to get him in the class, one that ranks number 10 nationally right now per on 3, tops in the ACC.
All right, we're heading into holiday season. There's a lot of traditions involved. You got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, you got Hanukkah. You also have a tradition like no other. Miami flipping an Ohio State recruit late in the cycle. So Steve, what are the Canes cooking up right now?
Well, I call the whole thing spatula season, as that's the time of year that we're in right now for all schools. You're flipping, you're getting flipped. Tarvo's TJ Alford, an on-300 linebacker committed to Ohio State, is keeping Miami very warm. And I think that as we get closer to the finish line each passing day, I like the Hurricanes' chances more and more for Tarvo's TJ Alford. Look, they flipped Justin Scott last cycle. Jordan Lyle looks like a future star in the backfield for Miami. Jarquez Carter is an in-state defensive tackle recruit. Hayden Lowe was the last defensive end prospect on the board for Miami. They want to add another defensive tackle to this class. Jarquez Carter's target numero uno. If you ask me today, I think he still sticks with Ohio State, but Miami is plucking along there. And there was a time where it looked like Hayden Lowe was going to stick with USC. He didn't. Miami will keep pushing for Jarquez Carter, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and there was a time in the beginning of the season where we thought DJ Pickett, a flip might be imminent. He showed up at that game in Gainesville where the Hurricanes dominated the Florida Gators in person. He witnessed that. Then he makes a return trip to Miami the second week right after that. So what? But then it seemed like things cooled down between DJ Pickett and Miami. But is it over?
I think that DJ Pickett is going to sign with LSU based on everything I'm hearing. Look, he was at LSU this past weekend for the win over Alabama, saw an opportunity to come in and maybe make an early impact in Baton Rouge. He's going to come back to LSU for the Oklahoma game the weekend of November 30th, which is just 5 days ahead of that 3-day early signing period beginning on December 4th. But dialogue continues with several programs. He's going to be at Florida this weekend where he'll get to see LSU play on the road against the Gators. And we expect Miami at the end to kind of see where they stand with DJ Pickett. But I think LSU, his comfortability around the program, opportunity playing in the SEC against that caliber of competition week in and week out is very important. I think LSU's poured a lot of resources into the recruitment of DJ Pickett. It's going to be hard to flip him, but I think that we'll see one more attempt from Miami at the end.
Yeah, they're definitely going to take a big swing at DJ Pickett before this thing's over. Steve, you wrote a great article today on on3.com, and you got a couple more big swings that Miami's looking to take before the early signing day.
Yeah, Vernell Brown III is another in-state target that they're not going to go away on up until the early signing period. That's going to be a tough flip from Florida. He's a Florida legacy, but I do think that conversations remain positive between Miami and the Brown camp, and so they'll keep pushing. He's going to be back at Florida this weekend for the LSU game as well, but receiver is a major position of need for Miami this cycle. Vernell Brown III and Joshua Moore are their top two targets at the position. They've already flipped Joshua Joshua Moore from Florida. Now they want to do the same with Vernell Brown III. Maybe they'll poke around on Dallas Wilson, currently committed to Oregon. I don't expect them to really pursue Jamie French right now. So Vernell Brown is kind of that guy that they're locked in on. Ben Hanks Jr. is another Florida commit that Miami will continue to chop wood on. Another Florida legacy recruit. His dad played for the Gators. Miami's had him in for a couple games this year. They're going to keep recruiting Ben Hanks Jr. The last target for Miami in this class is Kellen Wiley, on 300 linebacker in state from Tampa Armwood. We'll see what happens with TJ Alford. Does Miami have room for two? Do they take a plus because they think either of those guys is really good? We'll see how things shake out. We'll see if another prospect or two emerges here late in the 2025 cycle. But the guys I listed are the ones I know they're on. This is a really good defensive class for Miami, Josh, particularly in the secondary. And they want to build on that with this push that they're trying to make and winning the ACC and then getting into the college football playoff.
No doubt about it. Talk to us, Miami fans. Mario Cristobal making that run for a top 5 class last night. A huge flip of Hayden Lowe from USC. Talk to us about it in the comments section below. How we feeling about Miami Hurricanes recruiting? All right, let's talk some Colorado Buffalo recruiting. Colorado big noon kickoff this week as Utah is coming to Boulder, and so are top recruits. Let's talk about this IMG to Colorado pipeline that's being built. But first, Colorado fans, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. Get on board the On3 Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. All right, Steve, let's talk about it. Jordan Seaton, probably the most notable IMG Academy landing, but also Cash Cleveland's from IMG, a couple others. And this weekend, we have more IMG prospects invading Boulder. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, 10:15 local kickoff for Colorado. Kegs and eggs in Boulder. It's going to be an exciting morning out there for a big game against the Utes, the Utah Utes. I always think of my cousin Vinny, the two Utes, the two what? The two U's. But anyway, Colorado looking to close big on the trail this cycle. They have a lot of momentum with the way that they're playing on the field. 5-star offensive lineman, On3's number 1 ranked interior offensive lineman in the country, Alabama commit Michael Carroll, going to take an official visit this weekend to Boulder. Look, Alabama has a lot of equity in this recruitment, a lot of strong relationships, their track record of development, his relationship with the players on the team. There's a lot of reasons why he is committed to Alabama, but Colorado has piqued his interest down the stretch. He's excited to get out there and see what it's all about. 2 guys from IMG Academy that Colorado's been in the thick of it for quite some time now. Is 4-star linebacker Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng and 4-star edge rusher London Merritt, both back out at Colorado. And look, Merritt's committed to Ohio State. Owusu-Boateng also strongly considering Michigan. But I could see these guys playing their college football outside the Big Ten, and Colorado is the biggest threats to each of those programs. A return visit for both after taking official visits earlier in the fall. And then Alexander McPherson, a defensive lineman and edge rusher committed to Oklahoma State right now. He was IMG's leading sack guy the last 2 seasons. He is coming out to Colorado this weekend as well, and I think that one is starting to really look promising for Colorado coming into the visit. He was at NC State last weekend. Colorado this weekend, currently committed to Oklahoma State. He's a guy that's ultimately on flip watch. They'll have younger guys from IMG on campus this weekend as well. Colorado went to IMG on their first bye week with a couple coaches. The favor is being returned this weekend. We'll see what happens with Michael Carroll, but I like where they're tracking or trending perhaps with Owusu-Boateng and Merritt and McPherson.
We are seeing that pipeline. It extends from Bradenton, Florida, and it looks like it's going all the way out there to Boulder with these IMG prospects. Jordan Seaton.
Brett Collegier is visiting this weekend too, a 2026 offensive lineman, definitely a notable from IMG Academy.
You know, Jordan Seaton, being from IMG, you and I both had a chance to interact with him quite a bit during his recruitment, and we know he's a vocal, not just a leader, but he can also sell that program. I mean, Boulder sells itself. Coach Prime can sell the program too. but I feel like there's nothing like peer-to-peer recruiting, especially when you're 3 weeks from signing day and you got somebody on campus that was an elite prospect, one of the best players at his position, who made this decision just a year ago to choose Colorado over really Jordan Seaton could have punched his ticket anywhere. So do you think it's an asset having a guy like a Jordan Seaton in on some of these visits?
Certainly, with how popular a player he was at IMG, one of their leaders, that was a guy that those guys looked up to, were in the trenches with, a lot of big games at IMG alongside Jordan Seaton. Now to go out there, see the success that he's having, to kind of share in it. And it's infectious now, right? To get around Seaton. He's having a great experience. He's a starting left tackle. They're 7-2. They're chasing the college football playoff. And all these guys are instant impact caliber players for Colorado next year to come in and potentially keep it going. Look, Colorado is in the middle of it for these guys out of IMG Academy. They're trying to make it their AAA team, perhaps. And if you're at IMG Academy, you're already getting a college level experience with the way you attend class and the amount of work you put into football, the nutrition, and
living
all
away
of that
from home already.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's an important place to Colorado. Again, they sent a couple coaches there over the first bye week, and now they're excited to have those guys out there for a morning kickoff in what will still be a great environment. We like early kickoffs here at the Wiltfong Whiparound. You get the game done. You get the game done early, then you can get to hanging out. And Coach Prime and company, if they beat the Utes, you get to hang out all day in just great spirits. The team it'll just be a great vibe out there as they would get one step closer to their goal, the Big 12 title game and the college football playoff.
Without a doubt, these are exciting times for Colorado fans. So talk to us, comment section below. How you guys feeling about this IMG pipeline that Coach Prime is building? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head out to Athens. We got to talk some Bulldog recruiting. UGA big visit weekend as Tennessee comes to town. UGA fans, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. We're talking Dogs recruiting. All right, Steve, there's going to be some big-time quarterback names in Athens this weekend, starting with Georgia commitment Ryan Montgomery out of Findlay, Ohio. He's going to be back on campus for this one, but so is 2025 quarterback Julian Lewis, who's committed to USC, and then the number one quarterback in the 2026 class, Jared Curtis. Big arms in Athens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a position of emphasis for Georgia moving forward on the recruiting trail in 2025, obviously in 2026, as they try and keep that room championship caliber for years to come. They have Ryan Montgomery committed, four-star from Ohio. They're very excited about him, but they want to add more competitive depth to this room in 2025. Julian Lewis is visiting this weekend. Obviously, he is trending towards Colorado on the on-3 RPM, but I think as you look at the way this season has played out for Georgia, and you look at this quarterback room long-term, Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Puglisi are in there. Those are some of the guys that will be battling for the job next year. One of the important factors in Julian Lewis's recruitment is playing early, being a starter, that true freshman season. And I think if you look at the way this season is starting to line up for Georgia, you could see an opportunity where he could legitimately come in and compete for that starting job in year one. So I think that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on with Georgia moving forward with Julian Lewis. Him coming to campus, he'll get a chance to get around Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, talk infrastructure and resources, what that would look like for him as a quarterback at Georgia as well. I still really like Colorado a lot. We'll see what happens this weekend for the USC commit on his visit to Georgia. They wanted to bring in Jaron Key Sagapatelli, the Hawaii's all-time leading passer. He's approaching the touchdown record as well. He was not able to come on his official visit this weekend, Josh, because he's got a playoff game. So he's going to be at Georgia next weekend for the UMass game. He's becoming a coveted target down the stretch for the Bulldogs. We'll see if they offer somebody else. And then in 2026, Jared Curtis returns. It's his first visit since decommitting from Georgia. Oregon is the program to beat right now. I saw him when I was in Nashville this week. He reiterated Oregon's his leader, but he is nowhere close to deciding, and this is a recruitment that's been fluid. Ohio State led at one point. Obviously, Georgia did. He was committed. Now it's Oregon doing a great job. but he said he wants to get to his top schools several times before making a final decision. So you have Georgia in there. You obviously have Oregon and Ohio State. He'll be at Ohio State next weekend. Then you have Alabama and Ole Miss. Those are two other contenders for Jared Curtis. He's going to go to the Egg Bowl. Then he's going to go to the Iron Bowl. Then he wants to take visits to these schools in the winter and in the spring. We'll see if he takes officials, but he's had a lot of love for Georgia before, and we'll see how returning to campus, what kind of warm and fuzzies he gets getting back around Coach Bobo, Coach Van Gorder, and everybody else.
Yeah, I think Georgia's in a great spot. Despite the decommitment a couple weeks ago, I mean, I think Jared Curtis, he's an innocent recruit. You know, I don't think he fully grasped what was coming in his direction when he made that early commitment to Georgia. And, you know, he probably similar to what he told you. He just wants to take some visits, but Georgia's very much in this thing, even though he's admitting that Oregon's on top right now.
Yeah, right. He's a country boy that fit in at Georgia. And really, I think him taking visits, he just didn't want to be a quarterback committed to a program, the face of a class, and then go visiting other schools. And it also, every time he would take a visit, whether it was to a South Carolina game, he would call Coach Bobo and Coach Smart and let them know before they found out, you know, through the internet or what have you. And those conversations, look, Coach Bobo, Coach Kirby, they were cool. Hey, man, you get to go through this once. Yeah, go take your visits, but just remember you're a dog. I mean, those conversations are hard still. So now he can take those visits without that phone call hanging over him every time he wants to go see his school again to make sure he's making the right decision.
All right. Also on campus, a bunch of Tennessee commitments. I kind of like this approach here, just kind of pushing the chips into the middle. Georgia is bringing in wide receiver Travis Smith Jr., safety Laganza Shady Hayward, and linebacker Christian Gass. Yes, all three of the prospects are committed to Tennessee, and they're going to be sitting in the Georgia recruiting section. Steve, if any of these three were to flip, I mean, who are you keeping an eye on here? Who's most flippable out of this group?
Well, all three slated to be there, Josh. We'll see who arrives inside Sanford Stadium on Saturday.
That's a good tell on who's flippable.
Yeah, Austin Price, our Tennessee insider, is already reporting that Shady Hayward will not be at Tennessee this weekend, at Georgia this weekend. He's probably the hardest one to flip of the three, in my opinion. Georgia tried to get him to the neutral site game against Florida as well. Now, Florida is trying to battle for Laganza Shady Hayward here late in the process as well. But Tennessee certainly has the clamps on that one, as I talked to you guys this morning. Talking to our colleague Chad Simmons a little bit about Travis Smith Jr. this week, and Travis confirmed that he will be at Georgia this weekend, that things are picking up with the Bulldogs here. They already landed C.J. Wiley from in-state recently, now to land Travis Smith. Those would be the two most coveted receivers from in-state. We'll see how this weekend goes. And then Christian Gass, I mean, that is a guy that Georgia has been on for as long as anybody. Tennessee did a great job of getting him in the fold, but he has continued to keep Georgia warm. I wrote early in the week that I thought of the three, I would say Georgia would have the best chance of flipping Gass, but maybe, as I continue to work it with our colleague Chad, I would say Travis, but they might not get any of them still. Tennessee's done a great job recruiting those guys.
Absolutely.
Hell, Tennessee might win the game, but Georgia is still in the mix there, still pushing as they put the finishing touches on a class that I think ultimately will finish number one.
All right, Steve, you had a couple more flip targets in your article on on3.com this morning. Who else you watching?
Well, on 300 running back Jamarian Morrow, currently committed to Missouri. He's expected at Georgia this weekend. He was one of the more coveted backs in the SEC, Texas A&M, another program that poured a lot into that recruitment. But Georgia's still alive there. Zach Stokowski is an offensive lineman from Portland, Oregon, currently committed to Washington, Oregon, Michigan, and Georgia, some of the schools he's trying to keep warm there. Obviously, in-state linebacker Tavian Wallace. Georgia hasn't gone away on the Arkansas commit. And then, one other big name not committed anywhere, but on 300 edge rusher Chase Linton, expected back for like his fourth Georgia game of the year. My on 3 RPM is on Georgia there. I think they ultimately land him and get him in the fold.
Yeah, I like that pick. So Georgia fans, talk to Steve and I. How many points are the Dogs going to win by on Saturday? And also these flips, which ones do you want? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk some Florida Gator recruiting. LSU is coming to the Swamp on Saturday, and the big question here is, could UF have its quarterback soon? There was some big news in the state of Florida. Tramel Jones decommitted from Florida State on Thursday morning, and it seems like he is trending to another team in the state of Florida.
Yeah, we've been on this storyline for a couple weeks now, Josh. I like where Florida stands for Jacksonville Mandarin quarterback Tramel Jones Jr. They have 12 commits right now. He's my best bet for being number 13 for the Gators. Just look, when they announced that they were going to retain Billy Napier, it was a shot in the arm of recruiting adrenaline for this program. But Tramel was already trending towards Florida before that announcement. Right. So he just loves the Gators. I like where they stand. And then these names that we're going to talk about next, we're talking about them because of the love they have for Billy Napier, the belief that they have that Florida is trending in the right direction, and they can have an impact on that next season with the university standing behind Billy Napier and this staff.
Yeah, and this weekend, Jamie French, who's also from Jacksonville Mandarin, is scheduled to take a visit to UF. Is this a recruitment that maybe we haven't been paying enough attention to? Is it gaining traction between French and UF?
Well, Texas did a phenomenal job beating Ohio State, Miami, and LSU for Jamie French the first time around at the end of the summer, but they got one more hurdle to clear. It's the Florida Gators. I'm hearing that Florida is definitely in this. The idea of staying close to home for college is relevant, and I think that Florida's lining up the resources and infrastructure to be competitive with Texas for Jamie French.
Wow, that would be a huge flip if they could get that one to go down. Now, one more I want to talk to you about, because DJ Pickett, the five-star corner from Zephyr Hills, Florida, about 45 minutes outside Gainesville, is committed to LSU, but he announced he'll be back in the Swamp this weekend. Is UF a legitimate threat to flip him? Because primarily we've been talking about Miami.
I don't know how legit anyone is of a threat to flip DJ Pickett. When you talk to his family, you talk to DJ, they say all the right things about how strong his word is to LSU. He was back there last weekend for the Alabama game. That was his second LSU game of the year. He's going to be at the Oklahoma game the weekend of November 30th, which is just a few days ahead of the early signing period. He sees an opportunity to compete early for time at LSU. Playing in the SEC is obviously big from that competition standpoint, week in and week out. Florida offers that too. This will be his second game at Florida this year, but they were in the second tier his first time around. So right. I think that the momentum would really have to change for. We'll see what happens. Look, they're obviously coming to the game. So Naeem Offord's also coming to the game, Josh, another five-star corner, number 3 corner in the on-3 industry, number 10 player overall. And a similar deal. He's committed to Ohio State, a lot more smoke around Auburn and Oregon. But Florida, this is a rejuvenated program on the trail. Billy Napier's coming back. So they're circling back on some guys that they were maybe 4th, 5th, 6th positioned with now and seeing what happens. So this game, we talked about it yesterday on that live show we did here on the On3 Recruits channel. Hit like and subscribe. The games don't normally mean that much to me, outcomes and such, but with Florida, they're getting healthy. They're getting some key guys back for this LSU game. They're bringing in a ton of blue chip recruits. There's the vote of confidence with Billy Napier to go out and beat a good LSU team at home. Would just be another injection of adrenaline into the recruiting trail. They already got it once with Billy Napier, the vote of confidence. Now, if they could go out and just get a huge win like this against LSU with some of the stars that they're going to have inside the Swamp, this is probably the biggest home game that any team has had as far as recruiting ramifications, in my opinion, this season.
Yeah, and if they are able to win this game in the Swamp, I can't wait to hear what the recruit reaction is coming out, and we'll have it all on this channel. So let's talk about some of these defensive line targets that are on campus. We got Joseph Mbachu, who was once committed to UF, Myron Charles, who is now committed to Texas via FSU, and then you got Stephon Shivers, fresh off that decommitment from Georgia. Steve, who do you like amongst this group to end up in Gainesville?
Yeah, and Jeremiah McLeod returning. He is a Florida commit trending towards Georgia. Shivers is probably the best bet right now, right? But we'll see what kind of conversations are had with Myron Charles. And I like where Auburn stands with Joseph Mabachu. But again, he was committed to Florida at one point. We'll see how the dialogue is. We'll see how the game is played. But from that group right now, I think it's in a good spot, a trending good spot for Stephon Shivers, former Georgia defensive tackle commit. They're battling Vanderbilt for him. A couple offensive linemen, Josh, Daniel Pierre-Louis, Tavares Dice. Daniel Pierre-Louis, I think that's trending in a positive direction. They're taking their swing at Dice. Dice is committed to Auburn. I know I wrote online that I think the Gators have traction for both, which is true. But as I talk it out with you, better shot at Pierre-Louis, in my opinion.
All right. So Gator fans, talk to us. We got a big visit weekend. How are you guys feeling? Not just about the game, but some of these flip targets. Let me know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, it is officially spatula season, and you are dropping new recruiting prediction machine picks almost every day. You had a new one this week for Julian Lewis to Colorado. We have that in a video that you and I did on this channel. Go check that out if you haven't yet. But Julian Lewis trending heavily to the Colorado Buffaloes. Before we get into some of these new picks, Steve, I want to review at least one old pick here, and that is Lamont Rogers, one of the best offensive tackles in America. He's from the state of Texas, committed to Mizzou, but you have an old pick for him to the Texas A&M Aggies. Steve, how you feeling about that one today?
Still feel strong about it. Texas A&M hoping to get Lamont Rogers back on campus again this weekend, but regardless of which, I like the way it's trending for the Aggies. The relationship with Trooper Taylor, him leading the charge, the season that Texas A&M's having, he could see himself being very successful for offensive line coach Adam Cushing, the culture that Mike Elko has instilled in the program, and then A&M pouring a lot into it. When you talk about the offensive line targets, the remaining targets on the board for Texas A&M, there is none higher than Lamont Rogers, and I think that recruitment is still going well for them as they push for this top 10 class.
All right, enough with the old picks. Let's talk about a new pick that you put in this morning. It came moments after FSU lost Tramell Jones. He put out a note on Twitter saying that he is decommitting from the Seminoles, and you got a new prediction for Florida State to land a quarterback.
Yeah, Carter Smith, the reigning Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of Florida. I like the Seminoles to ultimately add him to their class, and there was a chance that they were going to add him even if Tramell Jones still stayed in the fold. Florida State has turned it up for him. It was a program he was always high on, staying in state, playing with guys he knows a lot of regular students there. I think that Florida State is the team to beat for Carter Smith right now. He is currently slated to take an official visit to Wisconsin this weekend. So We'll see if the Badgers can change that narrative. But I think it's Florida State that leads for Carter Smith, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country.
And then you got Ohio State going into the state of Florida and landing a new tight end.
Yeah, Corbin Fordham out of Jacksonville, the Bowl School, talked to him after his visit to Ohio State. Buckeyes are clearly the team to beat in his recruitment. Maybe he's closing in on an early decision. Colleague Chad Simmons also put in an on-3 RPM for Ohio State to land Fordham. The next Ohio State pick might be Anthony Turbo Rogers, four-star running back, currently committed to Alabama, was also at Ohio State this past weekend. I like where Ohio State's trending for Turbo Rogers as well.
All right, now let's talk about a big Nebraska flip pick on here at a position of major need for the Cornhuskers.
Yeah, Dawson Merritt on 300 edge player, linebacker, currently committed to Alabama. He is going to visit Nebraska this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up in Lincoln already committed to the Huskers. Nebraska looking for another top 25 recruiting class. Dawson Merritt was one of their most coveted players regardless of position. Even though he committed to Alabama, Matt Rule's been by the school to watch him play. He was at the win over Colorado in Lincoln, and now he's coming back this weekend. I think it's only a matter of time before he's in the class. And just like Grayson Littleton, by the time this video goes live, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a part of this Nebraska class as well.
What an exciting time for recruiting. You guys talk to us. How do you feel about some of these new flip picks from Steve? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head out to Columbia, South Carolina with Mizzou coming to town. The Gamecocks have another big visit weekend lined up. It has been buzzing around South Carolina recruiting. And this weekend, let's start with Jared Smith, the edge, committed to Auburn, is visiting once again. What do you make of this?
Oh, man, I think South Carolina is a major threat to flip the number 4 edge rusher from Auburn at this point in the cycle. Now, it's not going to be easy. Auburn did a good job of grabbing the momentum from South Carolina at the end of the summer and getting him in the fold. And he's been on the Plains several times this season for games, but this will be his second South Carolina game of the year. He is extremely close with South Carolina star Dylan Stewart. Dylan Stewart was South Carolina's top overall prospect in 2024. They got him in the fold. Jared Smith is South Carolina's top overall prospect in 2025. They lost round 1. They're trying to win round 2. The success Dylan Stewart's having, the opportunity to potentially play with Dylan Stewart, the relationship with this South Carolina staff. He has stayed in regular touch with Sterling Lucas and company, talking to them after big wins this season. Now he's coming back for a huge game against Missouri, playoff implications, 4:15 kick in Columbia, and Jared Smith is going to feel the love this weekend.
Yeah, another prospect at a position in need that's returning again to South Carolina is offensive tackle Damola Ajitahun, who's committed to Georgia Tech. But he's been looking around, and South Carolina seems like they are in a good spot with him.
Yeah, it's his 4th game visit to South Carolina this year, so he's damn near a season ticket holder, Josh. Look, Ohio State, South Carolina are in the mix to flip them late. Who do I think has the better chance to flip them from Georgia Tech right now? I'd say South Carolina, but he was at Georgia Tech's win over Miami. He's expected back at Ohio State per Chad Simmons for the Michigan game at the end of the fall. But talking to sources, I like the way it's starting the lineup for South Carolina.
All right, talk to South Carolina fans about Mike Tyler, LSU tight end commit. He's on the radar, and he'll be in town this weekend.
3rd game at South Carolina this year. This one is also trending well for them to flip him from LSU, a local commit. LSU's been high on him. They prioritized him early. Obviously, the way that LSU uses tight ends is advantageous and exciting for him, but no doubt South Carolina is getting some late momentum.
All right, Steve, like I said, big weekend in Columbia. Who else are you keeping an eye on as we head down into Saturday?
Well, 4-star receiver Donovan Murph, I have on 3 RPM in favor of South Carolina. He's been to a bunch of games this year. I think he'll ultimately end up in the fold for the Gamecocks. Let's
talk some USC recruiting, the ebbs and flows. The Trojan fans are feeling it. And just when, things are looking down, Steve, it's spatula season, and USC, they might be losing some recruits, but they could also go on a run. This weekend, we got a big-time defensive lineman visiting, 5-star Jakeem Stewart. He's going to be in L.A. for this one. What do you make of it?
Big visit. There's been times where USC has had momentum with Jakeem Stewart. They're battling Oregon, they're battling Ohio State, and obviously in-state LSU, where he took his official visit last weekend. He's been to USC several times, and he loves what USC offers off the field, from the Fortune 500 companies in Los Angeles and all the opportunities that comes with being a USC player. And then the coaching staff, Coach Henderson, their defensive line coach, his relationship with him is second to none. Coach Henderson is from New Orleans. He played high school football with Jakeem's trainer and mentor, Clyde Alexander, and Coach Henderson's track record of coaching in the NFL, coaching guys like Aaron Donald, he knows that that's the type of guy that can get a lot out of him. USC's co-defensive line coach, Skyler, he's also from Louisiana, coached at Southern. So there's a lot of long-standing relationships with this USC staff and Louisiana. And they want to get out there and watch USC play a big game against Nebraska, get on track, close strong. And they're in the thick of this with this recruitment with Jakeem Stewart. I maybe would put some other schools slightly ahead, but USC's always been one of his favorite schools, and they get their opportunity this weekend.
Yeah, you're right. This weekend we'll see.
Coach Deonton Lynn and his track record as a defensive coordinator, another exciting component.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Jakeem Stewart is saying coming out of this one. Now, this week, you made some noise along with Chad Simmons putting in officially that flip pick for Julian Lewis to go to Colorado. USC, though, has been working behind the scenes at the quarterback position. Who do you think they turn to?
Well, I think talks have intensified with in-state quarterback, local quarterback, 5-star Husan Longstreet. He's committed to Texas A&M. Here's what I know about USC and quarterback recruiting. Lincoln Riley basically recruits guys one at a time. So when he was locked in on Julian Lewis, Bryce Underwood wanted to visit. Nope, no quarterbacks on campus. We're all in on Julian Lewis. He's our guy. Things are picking up with Husan Longstreet, and USC needs to sign a quarterback in 2025. He's the only one they're recruiting right now, which tells me that they have confidence that they can flip Husan Longstreet, because if they didn't, they would be on another guy. Maybe they were on Blake Baker, who's committed to North Carolina, but Blake Baker looks strong with the Tar Heels. Husan Longstreet is the guy that's heating up behind the scenes. He's had dialogue. He's been on campus, not for games, but just individual visits with USC this fall. Now, the conversation still remains good and positive with Texas A&M. His brother's at Texas A&M. He's been to all the big games at Texas A&M this fall. But USC, them not offering another quarterback just now in 2025 tells me that there is some confidence around that program that they can flip Husan Longstreet. And if you're talking about this class, if they're able to get Husan Longstreet in it, you still have that franchise caliber quarterback in the fold as a young guy. I still think that, they have Jaden, who's starting this week against Nebraska, but Husan Longstreet coming in would be big for the Trojans.
Absolutely. Trojan fans, talk to us. How do you feel about the situation taking place with Julian Lewis, and how do you feel if Husan Longstreet was the next commitment on that USC list? Talk to us, comment section below. All right, that is it for the Wiltfong Whiparound. We will see you guys. Steve, we're going to be back on this channel Saturday doing some recruit reaction, a live show on Saturday evening. Then we'll have the inside scoop on Sunday, and we'll be right back here Monday morning for the Wiltfong Whiparound.